Thank you for joining me. We will be starting in approximately 1 minute, give or take. Hi, and thank you for joining me on this Wednesday evening. My name is Wayne from Ascend Custom Designs. I'm a small business owner and a part of the Xtool Squad program. What is the Xtool Squad, you might ask? The Xtool Squad is a global network of experienced makers, educators, and small business owners such as myself. We offer one-on-one demos of the Xtool products that we own, and the demos are a mix of online and in-person. It differs by the host that you select. Some hosts will also offer material testing and skill training. Material testing involves testing customer supplied samples under a number of different parameters to get you perfect results, whereas skill training is essentially a one-on-one masterclass with an Xtool Squad member. It's very custom, very tailored to what you want to get out of it. So for example, if you struggle with the software side of things, the Xtool host or the squad member will guide you through how to use the software. If it's more of how to use the machine, again, they will help you through that process. So it's whatever you need it to be effectively. Right now, Xtool is running a promotion whereby you can book a one-on-one demo absolutely free, either online or in person. I would highly recommend in person where possible. Seeing is believing. So if you want to find out more information about that, I will put some information in the comments right now. You can also visit the URL below, and that will take you to a similar place. So this is where you would click on, and you'll be able to enter in your postcode where you're at or where you're going to be, and it will show a map of the hosts that are around that area. So if you're going the online route, you can book anyone. I will also drop my contact details into the form. So if you're wanting to reach out to me directly after this is aired or while it's airing, please do so. That's my contact details. You can contact me in a variety of ways. With that being said, I do have a rough plan of what we will go over today. It's the usual thing in the sense of I will cover the material, cover the machines that I'm showing you. So I'll be covering the M2, the F2, and the F2 Ultra UV. So I'll cover the tech specs of those as well as a physical look around of the lasers. I'll then briefly cover some laser safety. Then we'll jump straight into Xtool Studio. This is free software that you can download from the website, and it works perfectly with all their lasers. So this is where we make designs, and it will transfer the designs from there and into the engravers. We will also cover custom things and AI make. So I briefly covered, or I shouldn't say briefly, I covered custom things on Monday. So we'll kind of pick up where we left off then. I'll show you some of the advanced stuff to go with it. And that covers online orders. So that brings us into that. Batch processing. So I'll show you how to take a single custom things order and batch process it. And there's a few ways that you can do that. So I'll show you how to do that. And we'll cover a variety of materials. So we've got keychains, golf markers, and more. I've got a load of different material in the office. If anyone watching live has any ideas about something they want to see me work on and see how it works, if I've got it here in the office, I'm more than happy to do a demo live on stream. Doesn't have to be those materials. So if you got any ideas and I have it here in the office, I'll be happy to give it a try, and just show you how easy it is to navigate different materials. The key thing is always doing a materials test. And I do get asked questions, why do we offer material testing as a service if it is as easy as I say it is? And the answer to that is people want to know that the machine will be able to engrave their material perfectly before they order. So it's easier to pay for a material test and for them to see what a perfect engrave looks like. When you're engraving to begin with, you might engrave something and it looks great, or at least you think it looks great. And then when you perfect the settings, you can then look at the first piece that you did and go, wow, that was good, but what I've got now is perfect. So because hosts have been doing this for a while, we know how to get the best results out of different materials. And unfortunately, some materials can't be engraved or shouldn't be engraved, and we'll cover that in the laser safety. But that's the general gist of it. So with that being said, if we shoot over to the X-Tool M2, so this is a fairly new laser. It was released this year, May time, and it has a couple of options in terms of what modules can fit inside it. So it has a 10 watt and 20 watt diode laser modules. And there's also the ability to install the 3 watt infrared module. So if you're looking to mark metal, the infrared module will be your best friend. It also has the capability to print in color. So it has a CMYK inkjet module, and that stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and the K is black. So it's a full color ink cartridge, like you would find in a household printer. And it also is a fully enclosed class 1 laser. And what that means is with that lid that you can see on the screen, it's closed. The machine will only operate with that lid closed. So if that lid was open even just a little bit, the machine will not work. So a class 1 laser is a fully enclosed laser. That means the light source has no way of escaping out of the machine, which is good for you, good for family members. If you're operating it in a room, you might have a pet. I have a pet dog, for example. I can run this machine and he doesn't have to wear no eye protection, nothing like that. I vent the fumes outside and we're good. So this is a very safe laser to have, especially if it's your first laser and you're running it at home. In terms of technology, what it has dual cameras. So it has a dual camera system. So it has a 5 megapixel panoramic camera, and that is located on the actual lid. So when you open and close the lid, it takes a picture using that 5 megapixel panoramic camera. A fantastic feature. It comes in so handy. I wish they had it on the other machines that have a camera where you close the enclosure and it takes a picture. It's honestly very handy to have. It also has that 2 megapixel camera, and that's a close-up camera. And you might be thinking, well, the one on the lid's 5 megapixels and close-up one's 2 megapixels. You know, why isn't they both 5 megapixels? The megapixels, you shouldn't really, it only shows a part of the picture, because I get asked about this too. Because of the distance of how close that camera is from the bed, 2 megapixels is all you need, honestly. And when I show you a picture of the 5 megapixel camera, the overview, the panoramic, and then I do a 2 megapixel close-up, you can see the quality difference. You can see that indeed the 2 megapixel camera provides much more information than the 5 megapixel camera in terms of what's going on the bed. It also has some other novel features like auto detect in terms of material. So for example, if I was to put a cork coaster in there, or maybe a slate coaster, and ask it to identify it, this machine will identify it and then come up with some suggested parameters. Realistically speaking, you should always know what material you're putting into the laser for a variety of reasons. So this is a pretty novel feature, but what I like about this is the settings that it gives you. It gets you in the right ballpark. From personal testing, I've tested items that I know what they are, and the settings it's come up with, the parameters, get you results from the get-go. So you can always tweak them. I always tweak the power, the speed, the lines per centimeter. If it's an image, the dots per inch. I always tweak everything, and that's part of material testing. So I always do that, even though X-Tool provides me with parameters. I always tweak them because I like things the way that I like it. So it's kind of like cooking. You might cook your broccoli for 10 minutes and that's absolutely fine for you because it's nice and crunchy. It's perfect, but other people might like it overcooked and soft. You know, each to their own. So you're able to adjust the parameters to your liking, is what I'm saying. In terms of speed, you can have a max speed of 600 millimeters a second with this machine. This is a gantry-based laser. So if you've seen any of my other videos of the galvo-based lasers, you'll see that they operate at a much faster speed, and that's because it's a completely different technology. So a gantry-based laser has to physically move the laser head up and down, left and right. So it's got the X and Y axis that it's got to move on. And because of that, it's slower than a galvo laser. In terms of assembly, it comes pre-assembled. It comes really well packaged. You have to unbox it, do a brief calibration, and you're pretty much good to go. In terms of the work area, I've put an asterisk next to it because the work area that you can use, the usable work area, does change depending on what you're doing. So by that, I mean, if you're using the 10 watt and 20 watt diode lasers, you will get that max 42.6 centimeters by 32 centimeters. But if you're using the 3 watt infrared module, you'll lose some of that because that module is wider and thicker than the diode modules. So you do lose some of that usable area. And again, if you use the inkjet module, you will lose even more area because again, it's more bulky. And not just that, there's a cap on it that the machine has to take off. So there's some clearance that it has to have while it does that. So that's why you got an asterisk there. I will drop a link to the M2 in the comments. So if you're looking for more information about the M2, please check out the link and you can find out all the information in regards to what the M2 can do in specifics on Xtool's website. And this is the official M2 on the UK Xtool store. Next, we have the F2, so the Xtool F2. So the Xtool F2 has dual lasers in it. So you don't have to switch any modules. It has dual lasers. In terms of the lasers, it has a 5 watt infrared module and a 15 watt diode module installed into it, or diode laser, should I say. And like I said previously, this is a different type of system. So the one that you just saw was a gantry-based system. This is a galvo laser. So one of the benefits of a galvo laser is it's amazingly fast speed. So the M2, which I just showed you, was 600 millimeters a second. This machine here has a max speed of 6,000 millimeters a second. And that is because it's a galvo-based laser. What that means is it uses a couple of mirrors to bounce the laser around the bed. One of the drawbacks of a galvo-based laser is the bed size. So this has a considerably smaller footprint. So it has a max engravable area size without any extensions, anything like that, of 11.5 by 11.5 centimeters. You can extend the working area up to a maximum of 40 centimeters wide using the slide extension. In terms of features, it has a 50 megapixel camera, and that allows a workspace, a live workspace preview. So it takes a snapshot of whatever's in the bed, and it allows an alignment accuracy of up to 0.1 millimeters when it's fully focused. Again, it comes pre-assembled and is ready to use once unboxed, and there's a brief calibration that you have to do. In terms of calibration, you have to calibrate these machines. It's a very simple process. The reason for that is transportation will move things around internally, and in order to get the best results from the get-go from your laser, it's best to calibrate it. And I've had to calibrate this machine in particular a few times. When I take it to the NEC for an exhibition, for example, it will move around as it's in the car, bounce around, or maybe I took it on the train or the bus, which I have done. This is a very portable laser, I should add that. It's got a handle on the top. It's 4.6 kilograms in weight. So you do have to calibrate it as things do move around. So when it gets transported, although it comes well packaged, things do move around. So to get you the best results, you will have to calibrate all the lasers. And again, like I said, it's a very simple process. You just follow the software prompts. You can't go wrong, really. And if you have any trouble, Xtool are there to help you out. If you want to find out more information about this machine, I will drop a link in the comments now. So that is the Xtool F2. Finally, we'll jump on to one of my favorite lasers, and this is a favorite laser of mine because it can engrave on such a wide range of materials. The F2 is probably my favorite laser by far because of how portable it is, but I do have a deep love for the F2 Ultra UV laser because of how delicately it can engrave a wide range of materials. So in terms of how it operates, this is a UV laser. So it's a 5-watt UV laser, and you might be thinking the other machine had a 5-watt infrared and a 15-watt diode. This is only 5 watts. This laser operates on a completely different spectrum to the other machines. So the UV lasers are often called cold processing lasers, and that's because it's able to use its high photon energy to break the molecular bonds of the material, and it does so with minimal heat. So it doesn't just use brute force like a diode laser uses heat to engrave, so you'll get burning or you'll smell burning. The UV laser does so a very different way, and it's not to say it doesn't make heat, it doesn't produce heat. It does, it just produces minimal heat, and because of this it's sometimes known as a cold processing laser. In terms of speed, it's able to operate at a maximum speed of 15,000 millimeters a second. This has a 48 megapixel camera in it, and I think it has dual cameras. I always forget to mention that. And it has an alignment accuracy of up to 0.2 millimeters, so it's still fairly accurate when you're taking a picture of the material in the bed. This machine specifically has a very nice feature where you're able to do inner engraves. So this is a feature that is very much only available using a UV laser. So you switch out the lens and put a different type of lens in there, and you're able to engrave on the inside of glass. So not just on the outside of glass, actually on the inside, and you're able to get 3D engraves. So this is where this machine really excels. Again, it comes pre-assembled and it's ready to use once you unbox it and do a brief calibration on it. In terms of the work area, you have 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters work area, and again, you can extend that width to a maximum of 50 centimeters using the conveyor belt, and that conveyor belt operates slightly differently than the slide extension. The slide extension for the F2 will slide up and down, whereas the conveyor belt is very much a conveyor belt like you would find at Sainsbury's, Tesco, or Asda. It will slide around on an actual belt. So the way that it works is fundamentally different, but you get a similar effect in the sense you get an extended work area. If you want to find out more information about the Xtor F2 Ultra, I will drop a link in the comments. And finally, we will jump onto the physical core of these machines. So I'll go through all these machines and what they look like. So if I switch over now to the pan tilt zoom camera. So here we have the Xtor M2, and I mentioned that has dual cameras. So this is the 5 megapixel camera. So it's located on the lid. And again, one of the things that I like doing is when I shut this lid, you can hear it beep. And it updates, it takes a picture again of the bed using that camera every time you close this lid. So I think that's a fantastic feature. It does have another camera, and it's located to the right. So when you're facing the laser, it's located to the right of where the module is installed. So right now I have a module installed, and you can see here it has a camera icon on the top, and this is where the 2 megapixel close-up camera is located. In terms of switching modules, I can simply just unplug this. I could do it one-handed if I wish, and I can just pull this off, and it can just snap back on and slot back in. So again, if I just take this off and show you the back, it has a couple of metal prongs, and it will magnetically attach. So if I wanted to attach the inkjet cartridge, So this is the lid I was referring to, where it needs the clearance. The machine will automatically take this off. There's a couple of hooks here, and what will happen is, you might be able to see it there, there's 2 slots. The machine will move the head into the slots, lift it up, and move it back. And then once it's done printing, it will move over, it will drop back on. This will magnetically attach and it will slide off. So it's a very effective, very cool feature, and this will stop the ink from drying up. So if I was to attach this, honestly, it's just that simple, and connect the USB-C cable to the side. So I will attach the 10-watt laser module back up and close it, and it will take another picture of the bed. And again, it's that simple. In terms of buttons, there's a single button on the front. When you send a job to this machine, you have to press this button to start it. In terms of buttons on the back, there's a power button, and that will turn it on or off. I have this machine venting outside, as you can see. So it does come with this pipe. It's about 1.2 meters. It doesn't go as far as you think it would. So I have this machine close to a window, and it just about fits outside. If you can't vent it outside, I would highly recommend you get one of the air purifiers. And now if we move on to the next machine, this is the X-Tool F2 Ultra UV. So it's a fairly beefy machine in comparison to the tiny F2. In terms of buttons, this machine has a red emergency stop on the side, has some connectivity and a power button. And again, I'm venting this machine outside. This machine does come with a touchpad. So if we just zoom in, if I was to kick it into life, this button here will move the laser up. This button here will move the laser down. This will frame the last item that was in the bed, or in the sent to the machine. So you can see here, something was sent to the machine and it was placed there. This button here will start the machine. In terms of when the job is sent to it, it will start processing. If I was to show you the bed, so if I was to zoom in a bit more, there we go. You should see 2 very separate dots. So you see a red dot and a blue dot. So to get the laser into focus with the material, so you want to get the laser in proper focus with the material because it will give you an ideal engrave. You will use these up and down buttons to move the red dot into the blue dot. So you want them to intersect. So I'm just going to do that now. And there we go, the material is in focus, and that's how you do it manually. You can have the machine do it automatically through the software, and I'll show you how to do that. And finally, you have the X-Tool F2. Zoom that out. I do have this venting, so you can just about see the top of it, the air purifier. So this I could vent outside, but I have it connected to the air purifier just for demonstration purposes. Again, there's a similar thing. You have a red dot and a blue dot, and you want to get those dots to intersect with each other, and that means it's the ideal focus distance from the material. So to do that, there's a dial on the side of the machine that you'll move up or down. So that's one of the options you have. The dial also operates as a button. So to start the machine, to start the job, once you send it to it, you press that button. It does have, on the opposite side, an emergency stop just here. So if anything was to happen, you can emergency stop the machine by hitting that button. It's not an off button, so please don't use the emergency stops as off buttons. And then it does have a framing button. So I don't know how well you can see it. So it does have a framing button, so you can frame a job that you've sent to the machine. Don't know how well that will come through. And then it has some connectivity, and it does have power button on or off on the actual back of the machine. And that is it. And I will say this is a very, very portable machine. I've taken this on the train, I've taken it on the bus. Honestly, it comes with a handle on the top here. It's very, very portable. So that's the machines. If anyone has any questions, please do feel free to ask. Now, if we jump over to the actual safety side of things. So I do want to cover this because I think it's really critical. Never leave the machine unattended. It's really, honestly, these are a lot of common sense things, but I can't alliterate it more. Never leave the machine unattended. Please put it on a flat, stable surface. So if the surface isn't flat, you won't get ideal engraves. It just won't happen. And in terms of a stable surface, you really don't want it rocking around because the material might move. You'll get a less than ideal engrave. Don't modify the machine. And then ventilation. So we touched on ventilation. I have these venting outside or to an air purifier. You really do not want the fumes venting into the room that you're working without taking proper safety precautions. So you do have the options of the air purifier for the smaller machines or the AP2 for the bigger machines. So please do bear that in mind. And this always materials that I get asked if I can engrave them. Some materials you should never, ever engrave, and that's because they're very dangerous to engrave. So PVC or vinyl. So vinyl, most vinyl contains PVC. So as a rule of thumb, I do not engrave vinyl on any of my machines. You can cut vinyl. So cutting vinyl is very different than engraving vinyl. So if you use a physical blade to cut vinyl, that's absolutely fine. And that goes to PVC-based vinyl. So you can get PP vinyl or PU vinyl even. Polyurethane vinyl, that's laser safe, for example. As a rule of thumb, again, I don't engrave any vinyl in any of my machines. I use a vinyl cutter for vinyl. And then PVC. So the reason why PVC is so dangerous to cut with a laser or engrave is because when you do so, the gas that it produces is very, very dangerous to your lungs. So it causes permanent damage, and on top of that, it's very corrosive to glass, so it will eat away at your laser lens. And typically speaking, the laser lens is the most important part and expensive part of the machine. So you'll damage your lungs and damage the machine, so don't do it. And then safety glasses. So the M1, M2, that they're fully enclosed class 1 lasers along with the S1. You can't operate it with the lid open, for example, and that means you don't need glasses with them machines. But some of the other machines like here that I've got in the office, the F1, the F2, the F2 Ultras, including the UV that I got here in the office, you can operate them with the lid open, the enclosure. And because of that, light can escape. You want to protect your eyes. So these are safety glasses, and they're not safety glasses in the sense of what you would use at a construction place. They're not there to protect your physical eyes from physical things hitting them. They're there to protect your eyes from spectrums of light. So these you'll have safety glasses that have different colors. So these ones are green. You can get some like orangey colored ones, but always check what spectrums of light they protect you from. So I get X-Tool glasses because I know that they protect me from the wavelength of the diode, the wavelength of the infrared, the wavelength of the UV. I do have third-party pairs. So these, for example, I know this does not protect me. So although they're the same color, I know that this does not protect me from the UV wavelengths. So wearing these when I operate the UV laser with the lid open, these offer no protection. I might as well be wearing my normal glasses. So please do take adequate protection. If you're unsure, please do reach out. I've dropped my contact information in the chat. It's on the screen. Please do reach out. Now, with all that being said, I should mention the laser dot size, as I get asked questions about this all the time. Sometimes I'll tell people to buy a 10 watt over a 20 watt. And the reasons for that is if you're doing more engraving, the 10-watt diode laser has a smaller dot size. So think of the dot size as its ability to draw the thickness of the instrument used to draw. So think of the 10-watt as a sharp pencil, for example, and think of the 20-watt diode laser as pen. So when you're trying to get all those little details, you'll have no trouble with the pencil. But when you try to do the same thing with the pen, some of those details won't come across because the pen has a thicker end. And it just falls down to that in a nutshell. So these are not the actual sizes, but they're in proportion to each other. So I've blew them up by about 300 times, give or take, but they're all in proportion to each other. So they're in the correct proportions to one another. The infrared laser is circular, as you can see, whereas the diode lasers are more oval shaped, rectangular, if you like. And then I've added the F2 Ultra UV dot size on there just so you can see how tiny it is in comparison to the rest. So the UV laser is in a league of its own when it comes to the dot size. Honestly, it's like painting with a strand of hair. You can get the very, very fine details that would typically be missed on another laser. So if I was to show you this plug that I did, this was done on the UV laser, and the quality of the engrave, honestly, cannot fault it. So not only was I able to get the actual quality of my dog, image level quality, like it, honestly, it's unbelievable, it's breathtaking. It didn't burn it, and that's because of the type of laser that it is. So I mentioned it's a cold processing laser, so it's very kind to materials that would otherwise melt or burn. Now, if we jump over to the software side of things, what I will do is I'll drop a link to the software in the comments. So this is free software. You can download it today and give it a try. You don't have to own an Xtor laser to try it out. It will only work with Xtor lasers, but you can have a look how the software goes and watch some of the videos that are in the software to give you an idea of maybe is this for you or not. Are you able to do some of the things that they're doing in the videos? So if we jump over to the software, one of the first things that I want to show you is the Xtor Academy. If I just show the screen. So the Xtor Academy is an official resource from Xtor whereby you can get help with your laser. So if I go over to the M1 Ultra, for example, you can see here I've completed 4 out of the 15 courses. So I was just helping someone recently with the M1 Ultra. I've never personally used the M1 Ultra, but I was able to help them because I went through the videos and through these steps. So the certain aspects that they were struggling with, I was able to jump through it and guide them through the steps. I highly recommend you check that out. It's a very good resource to have, and it's a very nice addition. That's something Xtor's added this year to their software. You can also check out General, do the laser safety training. Honestly, that gives you a certificate that you can use in the real world. And by that, I mean this can form a part of your risk assessment if you're doing craft shows. So if you're doing a craft show, you may be asked to do a risk assessment because you are using a laser. You can use this certificate as part of that risk assessment to say that you know how to keep people around you safe from the laser source. So I highly recommend you check that out, and you can do that today. You don't have to have the laser to do this course. It's 20 minutes long and it's very simple, very straightforward. There are also other courses by collaborators. So Paul, for example, has an Etsy business, and he has done a collaboration with Xtor and has created a short course. I highly recommend you check it out. It's very knowledgeable. You can also follow him on Facebook and his other social media accounts. So it's not just Xtor videos, it's select collaborators that are working with Xtool. So again, I highly recommend you check out this aspect, and that's the Xtool Academy. So what we was doing last week on Monday, was I placed an order on my Custom Things website. I showed you how it popped through. So Jeff, we entered in Jeff's details. So if I go back over to Safari, might have it open. There we go. So you can see here, I placed the order. It come through on the Xtool Studio. And as soon as I hit that process button, it marks it as processed. Well, I shouldn't say that. As soon as I hit the process button, so by that I mean if I hit reprocess, when I hit this process button and start the job, it actually marked this down as processed. It's very ingenious. It marked it down as processed because it knew that I actually did engrave the object. So, and it lets the customer know that the item's been done. So that's something I didn't get to mention on Monday. Here it says pending because although I've hit process on this one, I never hit the button to actually process it. So we just have a look at this order. And if I just show you the screen, if I hit this process button here and process it, it will mark this as processed. So right now it's still pending, and I can change that manually if I want. And you can download from here. You don't have to just click that to open it up. So if I close out of that and I go back to this order here, and what I'll do is I'll set the over to the F2 Ultra. So what I'm going to do is just take that out. What we'll do is we'll get several of these coins actually, these golf markers. So what I'll do is I'll just put one in for the moment. So I'll put it underneath the actual laser. And what I'll do here is if I update the picture, so to update the picture, you just hit this refresh background. You can see it's refreshed the background there. And I've got it underneath the laser. So if I just zoom in a bit more, don't know how well you can see that, but basically I can have it auto measure. So it will automatically measure and get the proper focus. You can see here, properly focused. And if I just take another image, there we go. So I can just move this over here and do that. And as you can see, has the various parameters already in there that we set. Hi, Nicole. So what I want to show you today is I got asked a question. So someone sent me an email and said, that's pretty awesome. Someone can place an order. What about if it's a bulk order? There's no option to order, say, 10 of them. So how would they have to place the order 10 times? Would you have to copy it? How would you go about doing it? So the simple answer is you are set up for mass producing. If a customer wanted 6 of these, it's a very simple process. So if we close out of this again, and I just open it up. So let's just say the customer ordered it and the customer wanted 6 of these or 4 of these. So it took a picture. We know the material's in focus. What I'll do is I will just pop in a few of these. So I'll move these around so they're in different places. So I've just placed 5 of those on the bed. If I take a picture, so you need to update. So the M2, when I was showing you the lid opening and closing and taking a picture, this is what would be awesome with the F series if it was able to do that when you shut the lid. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 items. And I could move this over to here, duplicate it, move it over to here, duplicate it, move it over to here, and you get the image. You can do that manually. Now, there's also a way to batch produce. So to do that, if you go onto the left-hand side, you got applications, batch fill. You're then asked if you to select what you want to batch fill. So I've just hovered over and selected what I want to mass produce. And one of the things to note is you've got two ways of doing a batch fill. So if I just show my screen so it's a little bit bigger, it says batch fill network required. So this uses some of Xtool's AI infrastructure to help analyze the images. Or you can click on this and it will use just your computer's processors that it has available. So it's better to do it locally if it's for simpler things. For more complex items and materials, it's best to use the network where you use Xtool's servers. So if I was to just use that, it will ask me to map out the material. So I want it to look for stuff like this. If I hit fill, it will then send that information to Xtool. So this can take some time. So do not move the material inside the processing area. So right now it's sending information to Xtool servers. They're analyzing the image and then they will create a batch fill accordingly. So as you can see, it's slowly doing it. And you can see that it's saying queuing up here, for example. But what I'll do is I'll just cancel that and I'll just show you how to do it locally. So batch fill. And again, frame out material, fill. So we already framed out the material and you can see done, 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 done. So for the most part, most of them are pretty accurate. So this one, not so much, but all the rest of them are good. So imagine I could have put 20 of these on the screen and done that. And the batch fill is ready to go. So that's how you would do it. So the batch fill, very simple and very handy. So I hope the person that asked the question is watching. That is how simple it is to do. So one of the other things that I wanted to mention in terms of features. So if the machine has a camera, it's capable of reading QR codes. So if you order Xtool materials, you'll get a QR code with the materials usually. So if you order Xtool select material, so if I go over to my shelving, my racking, I have some boxes, some storage boxes here with various things. So if I just pull this off the lid, so right here, I pulled that off the storage box. I'll just take these out of the bed. And the storage box has, what does it have in there? It has Xtool keychain. So I'll just leave the wrapper on that for the moment. Now, if I start a new tab, it will automatically connect to the last layers I was using and take a picture. So you can see here, it's still in its wrapping. I just left it in its wrapping. When you engrave it, obviously you take that off the wrapping, but this is what I'm concerned with here. It's got that QR code. This is the QR code come with the material. So if I just click this picture here, materials identified, varnished beechwood. So I can make it so it does that automatically. So I always do this manually as I like to know what it's doing. So I leave this unticked. But if I hit apply, it's automatically selected the correct material. It got it. Now, if I was to go on, enter some text. So I should note that there is a code where you can get some money off. I probably should have mentioned that earlier. I'm not a very good good at this, but what I'll do is I'll post that in there. There we go. So I'll put my contact information in there again. So that code does not work with the M2 and the O1, so it only doesn't work with the new release machines. There's no sale on them at the moment. Although the O1, if you do your £50 deposit now, or £50 or 50 in whatever local currency you're ordering in, you will get the best price as well as some bonus stuff. So if I click on that, you can see it's selected varnished beechwood Xtor F2 Ultra UV, and this is the material test to go with it. Now you might be thinking, what about if I use the other machine? So if I click on the other machine and I go to the M2, for example, so I'll show you exactly how the M2 works. It automatically updates the picture when you put it in. So you can see the M2 right now. It's took a picture automatically. Now, if I move over and if I take the same information out, I drop this in. But what I'll do is I will just take it out of its wrapping. So I'll just put that in there. And when I close this on the screen, so hopefully if I continue talking, you'll hear a beep. And you'll see it's automatically put the picture on the screen in the software. A very underrated feature, honestly. This single feature is my favorite feature of the M2. And there's several features that I absolutely love. So if I physically force a refresh of the picture, again, material detected, click apply, and it's applied the settings. And again, if I do the same thing, you can see the different results. You can see it actually starts charring around the edges, and that's the difference between the Ultra in terms of cold processing. And if I was to show you, I mentioned the close-up camera. So we talked about having two cameras on this machine, the 5 megapixel panoramic camera and the 2 megapixel close-up camera. So when you take a picture, it takes a picture using the panoramic camera. Now, if I wanted a close-up picture, I would use that close shot, or I can take a close shot of a bigger area. So a close shot will only take a picture of a certain amount of area because it's so close to the bed, it can't get the whole bed. So if you are taking a picture of an item that's bigger than that, you can stretch it out and you can go, do you know what? How does this look? So right now it is moving around the bed, taking pictures, and you can see up here, taking local photos. And you can see the quality difference. So again, if we just scroll up to here, you can see the difference. Again, if we just do a single picture, so that is the 5 megapixel. And if I was to just take a picture of half on, half off, maybe like that, you can see the difference. I can read that perfect. I can see the grain in this using that close-up. 2 megapixels. So again, the megapixels, don't get too concerned with the megapixels. It's the type of lens that's more important sometimes than the megapixels. So do bear that in mind. So it's not a low quality camera in that sense. You can see the picture quality is night and day different from the 5 megapixel. So I just thought I'd mention that, and you can use this QR code in any machine that has a camera. So any machine that has a camera is capable of using this. And when you order Xtool Select material, most of the material will come with a QR code in one shape or form. So some of the older Xtool Select material won't have this little cutout, in which case you can just find it up here. If you go to materials, you can search for all the Xtool Select material is in the material library, and it will automatically pull the correct settings and save you having to do material tests. So I get asked a lot for people that are just starting their laser engraving journey, where's the best place to get materials if you're new? And the simple answer is go to the place where you buy your machine from, and they have a material store, and you're able to get material that will work off the bat. You don't have to figure out and do a materials test yourself. And in terms of material tests, I've showed this many times. What I typically like to do is if I'm doing an engrave test, I will create a rectangle. So you got the rectangle there. And what I'll do is I'll create a rectangle that is 3 millimeters by 3 millimeters. So you can see it there. I'll set it to engrave. And then if I go to this applications, material test array, it will create a square grid. And I can select what power is the maximum power, so 90%. I want to go from 30% to 90%. In terms of speed, max speed of 400, minimum speed of 100. And in terms of rows, I can go, do you know what? Multiple rows, 7 by 7. Now it's created a 7 by 7 grid. And if you have a look at it, that's 100 speed. So everything on this row is going 100 speed. And then it goes 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 power. So if I was to ungroup this and select this one, this should be 90 power, 100 speed, 90 power, 100 speed. This one should be 80 power, 100 speed. And you can see, so you can rapidly create a material test array. And then what you'll get at the end of it is something very much like this. So from here, this is something I did, and it allowed me to get the best results for this material. So I might be going for a darker engrave. So I know that I can use 200 speed by 30 power. Whereas if I'm going for something light, I know to use that one, and I can just follow that along. That's 3000 speed and 50% power. So I highly recommend you do material tests yourself on all your materials. And that will really allow you to dial in and get the best results possible. So this is one of the first things I do when I get customer supplied materials. So for example, I have some customer supplied materials here that I need to test. So they sent me some of their leather. I have leather here in the office, but it's not the same. It's not tanned the same. The leather I have here is fake leather. Their leather they have, it's real leather. It's vegetable tanned, so it doesn't contain any harmful chemicals. But it's very custom leather that they're doing. So they sent me scraps of their leather to test on one of the machines I have here in the office. If it comes out with ideal results, they will purchase a machine. And that's why I talked about doing materials tests for customers. And it's a paid for service because it saves them having to buy a machine only to find out it doesn't give them an ideal engraves. Have you engraved metals as well? Yes, I've engraved metal, dog tags, brass plates, all various sorts of metal using the infrared laser. So if you want to engrave metal, the best option will always be an infrared or MOPA laser. So they operate on a different spectrum of light, and you're able to engrave on metal or mark metal more effectively. So one of the ones that can mark metal is the F2. So the F2 has the ability to use that other laser. And by that, I mean it has dual lasers, and you can tell it to use the infrared laser. So when I select it, you can see here, blue light, typically used for materials such as basswood, congregated cardboard, and leather. So basically I use the diode for organic materials as a rule of thumb, and I use the infrared for metal. And it's not 100% like that, but as a rule of thumb, that's the way that I would naturally go. There are always exceptions, but an infrared laser is what you need to ideally mark metal. Now, this is only a 5-watt infrared laser, so it's not as powerful as a MOPA laser. So a MOPA laser operates very differently, and you're able to control a wide range of things very carefully and very precisely. So by that, I mean, if I was to switch this to, say, a military keychain, if I was to show you, you can see on stainless steel, you're able to get these types of marking, and you can see here it says infrared. Now if I switch this to blue light, there's no test. Now if I then switch this to a different type of laser that I don't have, so if I switch this to, go to device library, go to F2 Ultra, now it's still the stainless steel military pendant. Now if I click on that, you can see there's a bigger test for one, and there's a wider range of variations, shades. Now if I was to click go to the blue light reference, you can see that you can get colors. So it doesn't print colors. This will make the machine operate on different, it will oscillate differently. It's hard to explain simply, but you can control a MOPA laser in a way that you can't control a normal infrared laser, the power source. And because of that, you're able to get repeatedly very well-defined colors. So I hope that makes sense in terms of metals. And now, one of the things that I wanted to test is engraving. So if I put this back into the F2 Ultra UV, and we'll just give this a test. So if I was to put this in here, and this doesn't sit flat. So I will say that when you put something in, when you put material in the machine, it needs to sit flat. Otherwise you will get a less than ideal engrave. So here you can see that I've put my bubble level on, and you might be able to see that it's indeed not level. So the way that I get things level is you can put something underneath it, or you can rest it on something. So one of my trusted fork coasters, and the thing that stops this from being level is the metal just there. So if I just hang this over, you will see that now that's level. So if I leave this in there, what I'll do is I'll shut this, and you can also see that the laser is no longer properly focused on the material because it's raised up. And what I'll do is, in the software, I will just take a measurement. When you take a measurement and it automatically measures it, it will also update the picture. So it's already got the varnished beechwood. And what I'll do here is I'll just rotate it and shrink it, and maybe I'll frame it, show you how the framing works. So I've got this framing, and you should hopefully be able to see it when I lift it up. You can just about see it through there. Excuse me. So this will allow you to actually more centralize it. So if you're working on expensive material and you're not 100% certain on the quality of the camera, you do have the option to use this real-time framing. I use this all the time. More often than not, I'm happy with the how it looks using the camera. But when you're working on small material, even the slightest deviation will be noticeable. So when I'm working on big pieces of material, I'm not so concerned with it. But when it's finite amount of space, even the slightest miscalculation can make it look more to the left or to the right. Yes, the fiber laser is able to emboss. So if you had a blank coin, for example, like a brass coin, you could physically engrave and remove material. So not just do a surface level marking. So the 5-watt infrared laser, it engraves, but it's a surface level engrave. You can barely feel it. It just marks the surface layer, whereas the fiber laser will actually remove metal out of the material. So it will physically remove material, and because of this, you're able to do like a 3D emboss. So you could have someone's face, for example, and it will create like a 3D effect where metal has been removed. So if I finish framing, hit finish, start, that's sent. Now all I have to do is press the button on the pad and it will start. And you should see how quick this is. And honestly, just not just how quick, but how clean the engrave is on the F2 Ultra. And that's it, it's done. And again, this was done using Xtool's settings. There's no trickery. If I show you there, there's no, this is a real-time test. If I switch over to desk camera, that is the quality. So if I show you this with leave that open, and what I'll do is hit finish, and we just check out that. So we selected that one, that's the recommended. So that was the recommended one, and this is how it turned out. Exactly how the material set, and this is one of the benefits of using Xtool's material, Xtool Select. If you're looking to buy material, please do reach out. We can offer you a discount. Just need to know what material you're ordering. And that is pretty much it. Honestly, it's night and day different when you're using Xtool materials with the Xtool settings in terms of trying to figure out what the settings are. You don't have to do any of that. So Xtool have done a fantastic job of preloading all this information and going through all the painstaking tests that you would otherwise have to do. So if you're looking to hit the ground running, I would advise get Xtool Select material to start with to help you through that process. And eventually you'll be able to do amazing things. So when you do the settings yourself, when you gain that confidence, you can do things like this. So I used 2 different lasers to get this effect. So I engraved this on the F2. So this was done, the dog was done with the diode. I then engraved the wasp after the fact. So I engraved this on the F2 and this on the F2 Ultra UV. And because of how precisely I can control the F2 Ultra UV, I was able to cause a reaction to happen. so glassification, and it turned the engraved gold. It's got like gold, it looks like it's gold flecks inside of it, and it's a really nice effect, and it contrasts the picture. And I've done the same thing with this one. So I added the name on there, so it's a cat looking at a butterfly, and again I did this in the f2 Ultra UV and the rest of it just in the normal f2, and again it's repeatable results. I'm able to do this repeatedly, and again that is because of the level of control that I have over the laser. And that is all the time that we have for today. I'll be online again next week, Friday. So I'll be online again Friday, and I'll be online at 7 p.m, so an hour earlier. And again, if anyone has any questions, so if you're watching this after it's aired, my contact details are in the comments and they're also on screen. So please do reach out to me. I do respond. Sometimes it might take a couple of working days, but honestly, I will respond to you. So the best way is WhatsApp where possible. I do check my emails, but sometimes you go to spam. So do bear that in mind when you contact me. And again, I'll be online again Friday, and we'll cover some of the same aspects, and I'll answer any questions that I've got in between now and then. Until then, have a good rest of your evening, and I will see you again on Friday at